So, this was kind of confirmed to me like a couple days ago or so. I've kind of known this already, but like this was just a different type of like confirmation. Um, and I felt like it was really important to like get this out there, um, so people can be aware. But you know, God speaks to us in many different ways. Um, but sorry, I'm always moving and stuff. God speaks to us in many different ways. And one of those ways is could be through numbers. Through numbers, and you know, there are other like different kind of synchronicities that God can speak to us through. Um, but you know, there have been a lot of people that have come into like their awakening um, at a certain point in time. Whether they choose to follow the path towards their awakening or not is, you know, something, a whole nother conversation. But there are certain people at certain times um, who will come into their awakening um, or have already. And God showed them signs. And I believe for most of us, God has shown us through numbers that it was time for us to go through our awakening. And so I say that to say, I'm not perfect by any means. I'm not perfect by any means. I still struggle with different things, as we all do. I am trying to, you know, go through that and try to master the things that I can to the ability that I can through God's help. But what was told to me and what I've seen like frequently is that if you haven't been getting the synchronicities, if you haven't been getting the angel numbers, if you haven't been receiving any kind of number sequence or anything like that, for real, like in all seriousness, I think you should be worried. I think you should be worried because that means that you are still stuck in the matrix. There's some people who are getting the synchronicities, angel numbers, all that stuff, and you know, everyone has free will, so you can choose to, you know, listen or not. But if you haven't been getting any synchronicities, any angel number sequences or anything like that, I think you should really, really, really be worried and really, really, really start praying to God that He reveals Himself to you for real, for real. Because I think there are a lot of people who claim to be believers, but it's just something that they do religiously. It's just something that they practice religiously, you know, like they go through the motions of practicing this tradition of doing religious things, but it's not actually in them. You know, they're not actually seeking God, you know, because however like you want to see it or whatever the case may be, however you want to view it, however you want to see it or whatever, we already know that God will use people in miraculous ways, and he will use people that you wouldn't think he would use for his glory, for his purpose. So I think people who they want to continue to put God in a box and think, oh no, only this person or only these type of people can be anointed by God. Don't tell God, uh, don't tell God, how to do his job, and don't try to, I don't know, like the right words to say, but don't think that you're God, and that you know what God would do in someone's life or in general in the world to, you know, awaken people. He will use who he wants to use for his glory. He will use who he wants to use to make an impact in the biggest way possible. And, that can be done in many different ways. But, so this is kind of a warning. If you haven't been receiving the synchronicities, the angel numbers, maybe it's time to start seeing things differently. Maybe it's time to start thinking differently. Maybe it's time to stop putting God in a box and thinking that you know God better than he knows himself. Okay? I'm telling you, it's serious out here. It's serious out here. Things are shifting constantly, and people are awakening, and they are trying to get onto the path that God has for them. And if you've been on the same path, doing the same thing for the longest time, and you haven't had that awakening, you haven't been receiving the synchronicities, the numbers, the anything, because God speaks through numbers. You know, when I was younger, I think I was in elementary school, was the first time I actually realized that God could speak to us through numbers. I was at the library one day and I picked up a book by Max Lucado. I believe that's who it was. And I believe the title was God is a Mathematician. Good book. I never read the whole thing, but it was like really eye-opening. Really eye-opening. I believe he's a Christian. I believe he's a believer. Really eye-opening. So never underestimate God. Never underestimate God and the tools that he will give people to use for his glory. Okay? Thank you. Have a good day. God bless.